Futures now, old man.
What it do, RookieHQ? This is Future First Podcast, where we help you win today with the Future First mindset. I'm your co-host J-Mac here with my co-host Jose. What's going on tonight, man?
Not much, J-Mac. Getting a little late start here tonight. My son decided he, didn't want to go to bed, so recording a little bit later tonight than normal. But that's the dad life. How about you, Ben? How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been there before. It's it's we grind regardless, you know.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, man, I'm excited. We're gonna talk some rookies here tonight. We got kind of a unique way to look at the values of these guys here versus what we have been doing, just kind of looking at their pick value and what's been traded for those since. But let's get some house cleaning out of the way, man. If you're looking to get a roster review or you want some startup strategy for a specific league tailored to that league, or you want trade advice, you can hit us up at futurefirstpod@gmail.com. Keep those requests coming in. We've had quite a couple come in now, and excited to get on those and uh, look to give you guys advice on what those are doing. And as always, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to touch down on that like button and go for two and subscribe. Be sure to drop a comment while you're there. And if you're catching this episode on the RookieHQ network, be sure to follow us directly on YouTube. We're at Future First Pod over there, or search Future First Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We have lots of Dynasty forward content going on those other channels. We're diving into the rookie running back prospects on our next video that will be dropping. Should be out by the time this is out too, so you guys can kind of jump over there and check that out. But Jose, you ready to dive into this, man?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's do it. All right, here we are in our rookie value segment, and we wanted to do something a little different, like we talked about at the top here. We wanted to kind of take a look at the values of the rookies in a little bit different way. Previously, we've been looking at Dynasty Daddy and the trades that have been going on for the picks that we've been assigning to what these rookies are, in consensus. The 101 is Jeremiah Love. The 102 was Mekhi Lemon. But I had this idea where Sleeper has the rookies inputted into their system, albeit it's a little flawed. I think they have, Trinidad Chambliss in there as one of their rookies. And there's some other rookies in there too. I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. And I went back and the guy redeclared he's in the transfer portal. So Sleeper's a little flawed there, but we can still talk about the main guys that are up front and center on this draft. So we're going to look at the startup ADP for what these rookies are doing in Dynasty, where they're going compared to the veterans. And then we'll kind of extract value from those surrounding players and assign it to where these rookies are going relative to the ADP. So let's jump into that presentation view that we got here. At the top here, we have Jeremiah Love, who's going, let's see, in 20th ADP overall, which I guess puts him at the back of the second round. And I tried to take relative positions, and then I took like a linear value between them here. So you'll see Jeremiah Love is nestled in between Devon Achane and Jeremiah Gibbs, or sorry, Jahmyr Gibbs. And his value is, projecting to be around that 6,600 mark. So I don't know. I guess right off the bat, I think you're taking Jahmyr Gibbs over Devon Achane. Or sorry, Jahmyr Gibbs over Jeremiah Love. Is that right, Jose?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Jimmy Gibbs is kind of in that elite tier with Like a CMC and Bijan. Obviously, CMC is the giant risk in Dynasty of is he going to stay healthy after that huge workload and being CMC. But in terms of their production on the field, obviously a lot of Gibbs owners are pretty upset how that season ended, where he was looking like he was going to win you another title, and then he completely ghosted. But yeah, in terms of Dynasty value, I think Jeremiah Love kind of, as well as Genti, kind of slots in to make up that kind of top four, top five fantasy dynasty running back. So yeah, definitely. I think the other name that's there is a guy we were talking about on our main pod the other day, Devon Achan, right? With all the changes, what's he gonna look like? What's that gonna be like? And I wouldn't hate taking Devon Achan and turning him into Jeremiah Love. I think it's definitely a risky situation to do now. But I mean, if these value charts and these picks, from ADP startups, it's a pretty interesting thought exercise to go through.
Yeah, I think so. And just to kind of clarify here, that FC value is standing for Fantasy Calc value. So we're just pulling these values over from the guys at Fantasy Calc. And the ADP here is their overall ADP. So yeah, I mean, Devon Achan and Jeremiah Love are going back to back in startup value. So Devon Achan's, literally one spot right behind him. I don't know. That feels rich to me, but like you said, I guess there's a little bit of risk involved there, and there's also no landing spot assigned to Jeremiah Love yet. So I feel like these ADPs may be having rookie fever, right? Just because they're the name, they're hot, they they don't they don't have context of where they're landing yet. So people hold them in the highest regard, I think. I think it was also interesting right before Jeremiah Love, there's a 3 pack of quarterbacks going for a super flex draft, which would be Trevor Lawrence, Jackson Dart, and Justin Herbert. Are you interested in any of those quarterbacks in a super flex league over Jeremiah Love?
Yeah, I mean that always comes down to construction. Like, what did I pick in the earlier rounds? But yeah, I mean, I'm not a super heavy super flex like I need. So if I didn't get a quarterback, I would definitely be looking at one of those younger guys, Jackson Dart, Trevor Lawrence. I think those guys make some decent sense there instead of Jeremiah Love. Like it would completely depend on how you're building your team, but I would prefer the quarterbacks. I think just in a complete vacuum in a super flex startup, just because it's a prime position, right? It's going to be within the next couple rounds. You're going to start getting to names that you're not so happy with, and I think at running back you could still find some other talent, even if it's not a 20-year-old rookie.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too when we look at Trevor Lawrence's value over on Fantasy Calc. It's actually really low. It's like 4,600 or something like that. So Achan's value, who is getting drafted after Trevor Lawrence, has a higher value in Fantasy Calc than Trevor Lawrence does, but Trevor Lawrence was going earlier. So that's why I try to take out the mixed positions when I was trying to estimate these guys' value because it kept getting a little bit weird and get in there. But yeah, I agree. I mean, if we're drafting Love here, 20th overall, we're getting him. What is that? The 208, right? So that means we would have been drafting at like the 105. You're probably not getting one of the top four quarterbacks there. So yeah, I mean, you're probably looking at maybe like a wide receiver, running back start, maybe like a Jamar Chase or a Puka, and then Jeremiah Love. And maybe you're just kind of happy double tapping quarterback, later in like the fourth or fifth round of a startup or something like that. But yeah, I guess it's really interesting just to kind of talk through, theoretically here. So let's move on to the next one here and have Makai Lemon pop in here, who isn't going too much further after Jeremiah Love in a startup. He's only 3 spots behind him in ADP. And we have Drake London being the wide receiver drafted in front of him, and Nico Collins being the wide receiver drafted behind him. And they're right up against each other, 22, 23, 24, which gives us a value of Makai Lemon of about 5,338. So I guess, are you buying this? Like, do you want Makai Lemon over all of those players, Drake London and Nico Collins, or do you think nestled in between them is pretty okay?
Yeah, I think that fits. I mean, like you said, right now with these values in this ADP, it feels like we still have the the rose tinted glasses for all of them. Like everybody, I think when you're evaluating players right now, you're just talking about their tape and how did they look in college and what their kind of ceiling is. And obviously, I think most people tend to lean towards talking about their ceiling, right? We don't have the information of the combine or where they land, so it's all like the sky's the limit for these guys. I think definitely a few of these guys will have kind of the bottom fall out once those things start coming in, the measurables and the draft position. But right now, just as Makai Lemon as a prospect, who I like a lot, I don't hate that position. I mean, I think I would probably still be taking Drake London over Nico Collins is more concerning. Just based on how like that offense has been. Obviously, it can get better. CJ Stroud, we've seen him play better. It's just a bit of a worry, right? Like, but I don't hate that spot for him. I think definitely I'd be going for one of the more veteran players, seeing how he's already 23. He's not like 21 or something really young. So
Right.
that also plays a decent factor into it. And honestly, a guy that we're going to talk about a little bit later with Carnell Tate there, Pickens, I might be taking over all of these guys. I think without a landing spot for Pickens, I know he's not your favorite player, but he's kind of a guy that I think has a higher ceiling than all these guys, especially staying with the Cowboys. But he's a completely different case, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. We could nitpickins that later. Um, but I guess for now, I wanted to bring up two going in the same range as Makai Lemon. Ashton Genty is right there with him. And when we look at Ashton Genty's value over in Fantasy Calc compared to these guys, he's in the 6,000s. So, way, way higher than these guys. So, again, like it's hard to look at these values of these players and translate them into a startup ADP because, like you said, like team context is going in with these guys here. So, I don't know. I guess, would you be taking Genty over any one of these players in a vacuum?
Yeah, I think the value would be there. I mean, I think
Right.
I think the points, right? Like all of this, guys, right? When we pull these from these websites, it's just to kind of center the conversation around a point system that makes sense, right? Like
Right.
fantasy calc is just a way to quickly put a number to a player. It's not some sort of definitive all encompassing, but I can see why he would be in the 6,000, right? Because of what we were talking about earlier, he's probably, if not the dynasty running back 3 or 4 or 5, he's right up there compared to Drake London, Nico Collins, and Makai Lemon. What are they
Yeah.
in dynasty wide receivers? 11, 12, 13, like, right? Like there's a quite a handful of guys I think you would put ahead of these guys. So I can see why the valuation, and if I didn't take Jeremiah Love or Devon Achane in the middle of the second round, coming back in the third round, I wouldn't hate Genty at all. Or if I had a different pick and maybe I was getting the 2-3 turn, if there was no third round reversal, hitting a Genty and a Makai Lemon maybe, or back to back, if
Yeah.
depending on where my I mean, it wouldn't be a crazy start if somehow you went quarterback first round and then you wanted to go some crazy young running back build and hit Jeremiah Love and and Genty back to back. Like I mean, that could be a fun build. It's definitely a way to explore. I think roster construction and like the roster settings. Like if you're starting 3 wide receivers, it's definitely a big hole to kind of dig yourself out of. But it could be fun in a shallower dynasty league that you don't have to start as many wide receivers. So you'd be set at running back if Genty can kind of get back in there in a more favorable situation with the Raiders rebuilding their O line. But yeah, I think I would take Genty over most of these guys, dependent on obviously my roster.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like not to stray too far away here, but if we were talking like startup strategy, like that'd probably be the way that I want to go. Maybe go like quarterback, wide receiver in the first couple of rounds and then try to target Genty here in the third round because the value just feels really nice to get him there. And maybe even I double tab wide receivers in, 1 and 2 and then take I guess you can't really do that because Genty's going back of the second. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Let's move on to the next one here. So we have Carnell Tate going in between Nico Collins and George Pickens, and I did count for us. Nico Collins is going as wide receiver 10, so that means Makai Lemon's going at 9. So we have 9, 10, 11 here. Tate going at 10, Pickens going at 11, giving Carnell Tate here a rough fantasy calc value of 4,700. Do you think that falls in line with kind of your thoughts there? Do you see Carnell Tate and Makai Lemon kind of similarly?
Um, no, probably not. I think Makai Lemon is coming in, um, landing spot withstanding as a better prospect, a guy that seems like he will be able to succeed and be, if he can be used in the right way, as a wide receiver. I understand that he's played a lot of slot, but I don't think he's incapable of playing on the outside. It doesn't mean he's probably going to play a lot of his time there, but I think the game is evolving. These smaller guys, these dudes that are kind of just labeled as slot players, have the ability to just be all over the field. Like, not to compare is in terms of like their profile coming out of school, but like in the Super Bowl and across the playoffs, we're looking at JSN lining up in the backfield, right? Like Makai Lemon can easily do that. He can go in the slot. He can go slot. Then he is used as the gadget that goes across the formation to the other side. Like, he has that skill to run all. I think most, if not all, the routes. Obviously, he has a skill set that is more driven to the slot, but I don't think that it extends, completely limits him. Right. He needs to be with a good coach, an offensive coordinator that does a lot of motion. Right. That can really benefit from putting him in all those places, right? Just like they did with JSN this year. And they do with CeeDee Lamb, they do with Justin Jefferson, him a little bit less. But, some of these guys that you just see all over the formation, right? Like, you taking advantage of that pre-snap read. Carnell Tate, I don't feel like I see him as a versatile and as sharp of a runner. He's definitely an awesome, go and get the ball. He's great at coming up with a contested catch. He's got, if I'm not confusing my players, because I sometimes still but he's got the kind of more prototypical frame, right? He is one of the guys that could end up being better than Makai Lemon if he can get the right coaching and kind of blossom in the NFL. I just think coming out of college, he's not. I do think that both of them being ranked in the top 12 of Dynasty wide receivers right away is a little bit rich. I would have to go through and like do proper rankings, but that seems a little bit rich. Just like we were saying, kind of just being evaluated or scored as they're at their potential ceiling right away without all the other information. But yeah, I mean, in that situation, if you're just giving me between those players, I'm definitely, I think, going Collins or Pickens over Tate at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. And just like the commentary too to where they're going, I think is says a lot about where the wide receiver market is right now. I mean, we had three wide receiver ones fall out from the wide receiver one status last year, right? I mean, and Brian Thomas Jr., um, who else was that? Lad McConkey was up there. Um,
Neighbors,
and
probably, right?
I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was the other one. Neighbors is still up there. Neighbors is going as wide receiver
Okay,
6.
gotcha.
Yeah, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was up there, and I think he fell out. So those three guys fell out. Then you had Ibuka enter it and fall out all in the same season. So I mean, it's like I think people just aren't really sure what to do with wide receivers now, and I think people are just like taking their shots on guys that they could see the ceiling for them go, and these guys could transcend. It's risky. It's really risky, right? I mean, and maybe the play is just to kind of try to get those elite guys at the top and then dodge the position until you can get to value where you can extract value later on. But yeah, I guess bringing it back to Carnell Tate here, I'm kind of with you. Like, I think I'm probably going Nico Collins over Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate over Pickens would be a tough decision for me, because like we said, I'm not the biggest George Pickens fan here, but at least he did stay in Dallas, or that's what's rumored is going to happen here. So I'd be more in on him if that's the case, but that I can't believe he's going as high as he's going right now as wide receiver 11. Putting him in the wide receiver 1 conversation feels like a lot for me right now. I can't handle this.
I mean, I think just everything that happened with that offense last year and you kind of would just expect it to get better if the offensive line can get healthy and they can play a little bit better. Just screams that, Dak seemed to have just a natural connection with Pickens. The only thing that
Him.
seemed to kind of stop Pickens was himself. Not to make this like too much about Pickens. A player that I don't see mentioned here, not to throw too big of a wrench as we go through these, but he was a guy that you were really into last season, and we talked a lot about buying him before the market went back up on him. Chris Olave, right?
Hmm.
How do you feel like with Tate and Lemon and Chris Olave? Like, let's say you had the pick that was Kyle Lemon, Carmel Tate. Would you rather have Olave or one of those guys?
I think so. Like I'd probably take Nico over those two, but then I'd probably go Olave before those other guys. And he is the next wide receiver there. So he's wide receiver 12 after Pickens. He goes at ADP 32. So 4 spots behind Pickens, but in that same range there. And then right behind him is Tetaroa McMillan at wide receiver 13. So yeah, I like Olave, and I think he put a lot on display last year. And if that offense can kind of keep going with and kind of take the momentum that they were building in 2025 and continue that through 2026, I think Olave could very easily, stay in that wide receiver one conversation, especially with the way that the landscape is for wide receivers right now. Are you feeling the same about Olave, or where are you at with him?
No, yeah, I was in with you about the. I thought it was a bit of a riskier buy than when you were talking about it during the season, but I definitely was in on Olave, and I am now, and I think he's the perfect guy that if you can target with, the 104 through the 108 or something like that, and just do a one for one straight, I would love that. Some people, I don't think I still kind of come around Olave. I think the stink of all those injuries and the concussions lingered, but he did finish really strong. So if
Mhm.
somebody was in the playoffs, for example, I think they definitely know what they have in Olave. If maybe it was a more checked out manager, it was on a rebuilding team or something, I think maybe you still might have a chance. I don't know how many times you can trade the 104, 105 straight up for Olave if you can, or if you need to throw in like a third or something. That's definitely something I'm looking to do. I think Olave is just um, you have to remember what you thought if you were playing fantasy or dynasty about Olave when he first came into the league, right? When he came into with Garrett Wilson and Drake London. I don't know how everybody else had it. I was the most excited about Garrett Wilson, but then Olave was a close second right after him when I was evaluating those three players. So I think you still have that potential, and Chuck has, demonstrated that he can lead an NFL offense, right? Like that team
Yeah.
was devoid of talent. But I don't know if you want to move on to maybe talking about these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I do. And like this is an interesting one here because what we were talking about, with the 102 and what you would do with it in our main pod episode. You guys can check that out. It was under the QB prospects episode. But on this one, we have Dak Prescott going at ADP 34, Fernando Mendoza going right behind him at ADP 35, and then Jordan Love goes, quite a ways after them, half a round after them at ADP 42. Interesting enough, like Jordan Love has more value on fantasy calc than Dak Prescott does, even though he goes later than him. So Fernando Mendoza kind of lands in there right around that 4,000 range. And our takeaway on Mendoza was like, if you have the 102 and you're thinking about spending it on Mendoza here, I mean, more power to you if that's what you want to do. But we're a little more skeptical here of him. And if I can send that 102 and get either one of these guys, I feel like I'm probably doing it. And going to get Dak Prescott or Jordan Love. If I just need to compete, obviously if you have the 102, you're probably rebuilding. I would imagine. So maybe Dak Prescott isn't the guy to buy, but I mean Jordan Love would be a fine buy. And if you're just looking to kind of extract that value, and I feel like Dak Prescott will hold that value more than Fernando Mendoza would. Mendoza comes with the ceiling, Dak Prescott comes with the floor, I guess is how you're looking at it here. But yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling about these three pack of quarterbacks here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm completely on board with what you said about, if this trade, if I could do it straight, maybe on draft day, maybe it's not the 102, but it's more like the 104, and you're looking at either drafting Mendoza or going for one of these guys. I think it just makes so much more sense to trade for a proven guy, and it's like I understand. I don't know what it is. Like maybe I don't want to get too Cowboys biased, but I don't personally understand like how these rankings have Dak Prescott so low. I get he's already 32, but whenever he's played the entire season, he's basically been a top 10 quarterback like almost every single season. So it's like what even when you were talking about like Jordan Love, like what has Love demonstrated in his career to be like ahead of Prescott in most of these circumstances? I think he had a really one good year in what was it 2023, and apart from that, he hasn't been able to stay healthy when he's been the starter. I don't know. It's just it's a little weird. I understand the age in the dynasty, especially if you're doing a startup,
Yeah,
feels a little weird. But 32 for a quarterback is not the
it's not
same as
bad.
like 32 anywhere else, right? Like Dak is also not somebody that anymore uses his legs in that fashion where you're worried when he gets to 36. Oh man, is he going to slow down? Like his arm is all completely intact. So yeah, like you said, I would take either of these quarterbacks. Definitely Prescott. I think Prescott always seems to have that middle of the year bump where he's performing at as a top 5, top 7, 8 quarterback for fantasy, and you can always sell him in season unless he gets hurt. Obviously, you can't predict that, but he always seems to have that sort of bump. They're going to play a worse schedule. They're going to play a what is it, a third place schedule, second place schedule. So it's I don't know. I definitely see where you could get more value for Prescott in season than you could even Jordan Love.
Okay.
Which
So it
yeah.
sounds like then we want both these guys over Mendoza. So here, tell me when to stop. Where are you taking Mendoza over these quarterbacks? Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud,
No, maybe.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's just I guess the unknown of like those guys. Like I feel like Sam Darnold, we kind of know what he is. He's not horrible, but he's also not that great. Like that's the range, I think, right? Like when you're talking about
Yeah.
Jared Goff, Sam Darnold's, Bryce Young's, even like Matthew Stafford, just based on age, right? I think I would take the shot on Mendoza, hopefully getting somewhere, being able to develop into pretty much just a 8-year younger version of those guys besides Matthew Stafford. Like I kind of see Jared Goff and those guys in the same bucket, not very mobile, not very super elite, but good enough to start and good enough to be, your second quarterback in a super flex. Like that's generally what I hope for Mendoza is that he can be your second quarterback on a team. Like if you're hoping he's leading your team, especially if you're doing a startup and he's your first quarterback taken, I think you're going to be pretty upset going like 2-3 years down the road.
Yeah, so that kind of puts him in there at QB 16 then. That would make Baker Mayfield QB 15. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're landing with him. And that, I don't know, that feels about right. Where I'm willing to take the upside shot on someone like that. All right. Let's tackle this next one here really quick before we sign off here and we kind of jump back in next week and revisit this again. But we have Jordan Tyson here, who's nestled in between Emeka Egbuka and T. Higgins, going at ADP 42. And that gives him a value here of about 3,400 in fantasy calc value. That feels pretty low to me, to be honest. Like I like Tyson like quite a bit. It's just I think the injury concerns are what's kind of suppressing that value there. I'm probably swinging on Egbuka over Tyson if that's on the board for me there, which kind of lines up with him. But I think I'd rather take Tyson and get the upside over Higgins in that case. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, not to sit on the fence on that too much, but I definitely think it would be a contender versus maybe coming up out of a rebuild. Like if you have Higgins and you're not looking maybe to contend this exact year, because I don't think Jordan Tyson, obviously without a landing spot,
Right.
it looks to be a real contender's weapon. But you're looking at maybe next year or the year after to come out of a rebuild. Maybe you have a decent amount of 27 picks where you're feeling like, hey, next season after I make the 27 picks, I'm really going to be ready to play. I think I would do that, right? Egbuka, which Egbuka is a real Egbuka, right? Can the real Egbuka please stand up? Because you don't know, right? Like you talked about, I think on the last pod, I get confused which one, but I think it might have been the main one where you were talking about McMillan running ahead of him once he got healthy last year. So you'll probably be happier with Ibuka if Mike Evans goes somewhere else. That's another piece of the puzzle that we don't know. But either way, I think Higgins and Ibuka are kind of more future plays. I think we've seen what Higgins is, and it's nothing shy away, nothing to be scoff at, but it's definitely capped with Jamar Chase there.
Yeah, I don't know. Higgins has just never been one to like excite me. Like I just see him as one of those high upside, wide receiver twos type of thing. But I'm never taking my shot on him. Like you said, it's just like his upside is capped. I'd rather swing on Tyson. One thing here that I thought was interesting. I was listening to JJ Zachariason's Perspectives pod. He had Field Yates on there, and he dropped this bomb on us saying that Jordan Tyson in his model is like the highest of the highest tiers. It's like the new tier, he's calling it the legendary upside tier, which is really interesting. But I mean, that's at this point in time without landing spot, without draft capital, all of that involved. But I thought that was interesting. And he said it had a lot to do with the age adjusted production that Tyson had. So when he had that big breakout season, it was at a young enough age where it impressed his model in some way. And I don't know, take that for what it is, but could be interesting if he gets a good spot. I think JJ is going to be tooting that horn pretty loud.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like the more without the injury concerns and without all the other information, the most like NFL maybe like prepared, right, to come into an offense and like get the coaching like the other guys, but seem like they may need to develop more. But it's all going to depend, right? Like Jordan Tyson, where does he land? What coach, right? Like so many things go unknown at this point. But I mean, that's pretty interesting that so early on it's breaking someone like JJ Zachariason, who's a pretty well established stats guys, model.
Yeah, I thought so too. All right, let's put a pause on this here. We'll come back. We'll tackle these next guys that you see down at the bottom, like KC Concepcion, Kenyon Sadiq, Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman. And we'll see you guys next week there. Let's roll into the outro here. Yeah, I mean, this was fun. Let us know if this was interesting for you guys, or if you guys like what we were doing previously, where we were just kind of looking at the picks and the trades for those picks. We'll probably roll back to that at some point in time here. This content can only take us so far until these market values change. And when they do, we'll revisit it and kind of keep you guys updated on where these things are aligned. So as the ADP updates, we'll update you guys as things kind of move. But I don't think we'll see anything until the combine happens.
Yeah, we're not too far from that now. It's creeping up. It's creeping up. As always, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. RookieHQ Player Profiler, thank you for hosting us. As always, you can find us on YouTube at Future First Pod and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, guys.